After the botched execution of Clayton Lockett in Oklahoma, many media outlets talked about the credible argument against or in favor of the death penalty. And Sean Hannity had a guest on who actually is in favor of death by firing squad, at least as an option in certain states. Now, I don't want to give too much away. Let's take a look at the video and then I'll fill you in more.
Is a firing squad more humane than a lethal injection? Well, that's what my next guest says, and wants inmates sentenced to death to have the option. After what happened in Oklahoma, I mean, you're not going to mess up a firing squad, right?
You know, Sean, the only mess up we had was in 1897, and we've got it right every time since then.
Oh, you mean with a firing squad?
Yes.
And by the way, you're saying people should have the choice.
No, actually, we have the choice as the state. Our first option will remain lethal injection. If it gets challenged in court or if we can't get the drug cocktail, then we fall back to the firing squad. So it's our choice as a state.
Oh, well, that makes things so much easier.
So that's a really interesting argument, and we had a little bit of disagreement when we were discussing this during our production meeting. So on one hand, you know, this notion of killing someone humanely, which, by the way, is in our Constitution. We have, we have rules against cruel and unusual punishment, right? It doesn't really get the point across the same way that it would if you do kill someone by firing squad, right? Like, if you see the violence involved and the death and the destruction involved in executing someone, it might change some minds when it comes to the death penalty. I don't know if I'm buying that argument, but that was something that was presented. What do you guys think?
Oh, that if the public executions are shown again, that
yeah.
People, I don't know. I actually don't know. I think that for the vast majority of Americans, yeah, it would be something that shocks the conscience, and that they would say, no, I am not in favor of public executions, but I believe there's also a very significant, though small, minority of Americans who are interested and have that sort of bloodlust and enjoy watching people go through cruel and unusual punishment. So I think that that's a real dangerous place to tread on, because I think that would not necessarily represent us well as a country.
Right.
Well, you know, that's very interesting what you talked about, maybe if we did it in the public square. The reason why they stopped doing it in the public square was you're both right, that the people enjoyed it. Thousands of people would come out, and then the people who were responsible, evolved human beings, it did shock their conscience. And that's why we said, hey, we can't do this anymore, because all this is bloodlust. And this is what this is doing, is encouraging that. And the reason why, the guy makes so many bad arguments, it's so frustrating to me to see when people with television shows talk about the death penalty as if they've never heard the arguments against the death penalty ever in their life, yet they feel qualified to go on television and talk about it. So
I love that you just said that, because there was an inaccurate statement made in the next video. It's the same show, Sean Hannity talking to this guy about the death penalty, and they speak specifically about Clayton Lockett. Let's take a look at that.
What did you think of what happened in Oklahoma when the drugs didn't work?
I don't know if you can call it botched, because he still died. And the fact that he raped a 7-year-old and buried her alive. Yeah. It worked. And I don't feel bad the guy suffered. I mean, look what he did to that little girl.
Yeah, that's going to make a lot of liberals upset. What I don't understand is how you screw that up. You could have given him a hot shot of heroin and he would have died.
Okay, two inaccuracies there, two inaccurate statements made there that annoy me. So first of all, what Clayton Lockett was convicted of was absolutely heinous. It was terrible. He shot a 19-year-old woman, not a little girl, a woman, and then he buried her alive. So what he did was horrible, right? But if this guy's going to come on the show and do commentary on Clayton Lockett's botched execution, it was botched, he should at least know what the crime was. He's just on there just spouting off his opinions without knowing any background information on the actual crime that was committed. Another thing is, really give them a shot of heroin and they'll die? Like, what kind of stupid statement was that by Hannity?
So the reason why, of course, again, this ridiculous argument that is somehow the reason why people are against the death penalty is because we feel sympathy for the criminal. That's not the reason. I don't feel sympathy for the criminal. What I do is I care about my society, right? I can care about my community and my culture. And all this does, it's been proven that the death penalty is not act as a deterrent. In fact, it has the opposite effect of making us a more violent society. So that's why I'm against the death penalty, you fucking moron, not because I'm a liberal and I have sympathy for murderers, but because I'm an evolved human being and I understand the consequences of state murder, which is what this is. And you know why we do it behind curtains? Is because we used to do it out in the town square, and it shocked our conscience and made us feel like barbarians. So we trick ourselves and lie to ourselves into thinking that if we do it on a gurney and a doctor's there and we have curtains, that somehow it's not barbaric. Yet it is barbaric, because you don't deliver justice in secret. You don't have to cover up the administration of justice unless you're doing something fucked up. And that's what the death penalty is. And that whole thing about, well, if something happened to your kid, or if something happened to your wife, you'd want the guy dead. Yes, of course I would. I'd want the guy dead when they get my order wrong in the drive-thru. What does that prove? That proves that you don't have the victim doling out the punishment in a civil society. You have an impartial judge who cares about the effect of this sentence on society. That's what you do. Otherwise, all you're doing is bleeding into the bloodthirstiness of this culture, which we already are. So that's why you're against the death penalty, because it has such negative consequences. It has the opposite effect on our society. It makes us more violent. It makes us less human, more barbaric, and it lowers us as a culture. That's why you should be against the death penalty, and because it doesn't deter crime. That's another reason, and it only serves revenge.
So what's interesting about this whole issue is, if you look at polls, about 65% of Americans are in favor of the death penalty. So the majority of Americans still believe that it's the right way to, dole out the punishment for murder. However, there's something really interesting when you look at public opinion in the beginning of the century and public opinion regarding the death penalty now. It actually hasn't changed much, right? And you don't see much of a difference between older Americans and younger Americans on this issue. So compare that to something like gay marriage, right? Older Americans are typically not in favor of gay marriage. Younger Americans are more open-minded when it comes to it. However, with the death penalty, that's not the case. They're usually in agreement. And why is that? I think it's because the type of information that we get about gay rights is, I guess, more effective. That issue has been kind of talked about in the mainstream media over and over again over the last 5 years, and that kind of led to, I would say, more freedom for the gay community. Obviously, there's a long way to go. But let's quickly look at the graphic, because I'll show you how little public opinion on the death penalty has changed.
Wow.
The trend suggests,
That's unbelievable.
I know, the trend suggests that at this point, about 61% of Americans support the death penalty. This is according to a YouGov poll. So that's different from the poll that I mentioned earlier. They support the death penalty. Some polls, such as the 2013 Pew Research Center survey, put support lower, and some, such as the YouGov survey, put it higher. But nonetheless, it's pretty much flat. Public opinion hasn't changed much since 2000. So again, I think it goes back to the media. It goes back to the information that's being put out there. If you talk about the Innocence Project, if you talk about the number of people that were facing the death penalty, they were convicted of crimes, but then they were later exonerated based on DNA testing, I think that'll change people's minds. You very rarely hear about those stories in the mainstream press.
It is amazing. Yeah. It's almost like every time one of those Innocence Projects or a law school has a project where they try to find some innocent people on death. They do. Every time they go to death row and they look. And so that's also a huge reason why we shouldn't have the death penalty. We shouldn't have what they call the death penalty, which sounds like a football term. It's actually state murder. That's what we're really doing. And why do you call it murder, Jimmy, if they're criminals? Well, because as Anna just said, lots of them aren't criminals and we're killing innocent people. And let's not forget that in this country, we have a history of killing innocent people in organized ways, right? We had slavery up until a century and a half ago. We had the Salem witch trials where they killed witches. They literally killed them, right? So we're not that great, all right? We're still human beings. We're horribly flawed, and we shouldn't give our government the power to kill people when we know we're that flawed. And people will kill people on purpose when they know they're innocent too, because there's a lot of nefarious, evil motherfuckers involved in the criminal justice system.